Hello everyone, we'll be starting today's session shortly. While we wait for others to join, could you kindly confirm if I'm audible? You can type a yes in the chat box. Thanks Shravan, thanks Rishi, thanks everyone for confirming. Just a couple more minutes and we'll start today's session. So good evening and welcome to today's exciting webinar, which is how IT leaders use agentic AI for business workflows. So we are very thrilled to have you all with us for this insightful and thought-provoking session on one of the, most transformative technologies, which is shaping modern business. So in this webinar, we will explore the power of agentic AI, the intelligent adaptive systems that are revolutionizing how organizations operate. So, from automating complex workflows to driving innovation in business, research, and also creative industries, AI agents are rapidly redefining the future of work. And you will also gain valuable insights into how these systems process information, make autonomous decisions, and continuously, evolve through learning. We will also discuss the real world impact of these agents and what lies ahead as their capabilities grow. And to guide us through this fascinating topic, we have with us today our esteemed speaker, Shyam Venkatesh. Shyam serves as the Director of Architecture at FinTech industry and brings over 17 years of experience in this industry. As a seasoned technology leader, solution architect, and a data scientist, he has a deep understanding of AI's evolving role in leadership and its transformative impact on businesses. So today, Shyam will help us understand the critical skills, required for leaders in an AI-driven world, the opportunities that AI presents, and the challenges we need to navigate. He will also be answering all your questions, so please feel free to engage and participate. So before we begin, a quick note on how the session will flow. To ensure we make the most of our time, attendees are in listen-only mode. However, as I earlier said, please post your questions and you can send them via chat or else the Q&A tab. And please remember, today's session is just the beginning. If you are looking to deepen your knowledge and skills, we encourage you to explore our postgraduate program in artificial intelligence for leaders. It's a 5-month intensive course designed specifically for business leaders like you who want to leverage, AI for strategic decision making and transformational leadership. So without further ado, let's dive in. Over to you, Sham.
Thank you so much, Lakshana. and welcome to all the participants to this webinar. So for the next 50 odd minutes, we will be discussing how you as leaders can take advantage of agentic AI, right? Especially when it comes to your business workflows, right? Now, I know there are certain jargons that we are using, but we will demystify in the next few minutes, right? And thank you, Lakshana, for setting the context and the kind introduction. So let's begin with what is AI agent, right? So these are, I'll come to the history of AI in a bit, but you know, th- what we saw trending in the last decade was how organizations can use data, right? They're able to crunch this data and have machines learn patterns from the data and derive business insights from it, right? Like, for example, where should I deploy my most sales, right? And where do you think my revenues will be coming from, right? How do I, look at the bottlenecks within my industry or organization, right? How do I look at attrition? How do I improve customer experience, right? So using data, these were the kind of problems we are solving, right? And mostly holistic, where it adds business values, right? And organizations have taken advantage of that. They have kind of used it to improve their business, improve their revenues, and that's how we saw wide adoption, right? But in the last few years, there has been, so much of large language model and, the packaged as SaaS platforms, right? Like the Chat GPT, for instance. So a large language model, and why they're called large language model is because they are trained with large data, right? Imagine, training a model with the whole of the internet, like about 8 million plus, and Wikipedia pages, about more than 4 million ebooks, right? So imagine having a model having trained with that humongous data, right? So that's why these are large language models. They're very expensive to train, and large organizations have done that, and they've packaged it, and they have open sourced it, and some have kind of opening it up for you to purchase as a SaaS platform, etc. Right? Now, with these large language models, we have been able to do some specific task, right? We've been able to get accomplish tasks which can be very mundane or very repetitive, right? Or need some level of decisioning by humans, right? So we have been able to adopt kind of accomplish that, right? And I'll give you a lot of examples along the way, but just stay with me on this when we define AI agents. These are basically small AI models, right? Which can make decisions on your behalf. They can perform actions, right? And they can operate independently. You don't have to like have any intervention. You don't need your associate to kind of give prompts or anything. Everything is fully autonomous, right? And they take human like decisions, or perhaps even better, because they don't have the biases which we humans have. They don't have the emotional baggage that we carry and things like that, right? And this allows them to solve complex problems, right? And they can adapt to changing conditions, right? So today, you'd say, let's say, the market is down. I'm talking about the financial market, or the stock market, right? By let's say 10, more than 10%, and that's a huge event, right? For a lot of people. So we as humans might behave differently just because the market is down. But imagine, you have a bot which can take data driven decisions, right? Which is not biased, which is not impacted by these changing conditions. And even if they commit mistakes, right? So they learn over time. They learn from the experiences, right? And they start behaving better the next time, right? So this is where, this is the definition of AI agent. Now the way, you can define, in another way, or to put it more intuitively, agentic AI, they do three things very well. One is they can do task execution, right? They can perform multitask steps, they can build apps for you, they can resolve IT issues, they can manage workflow, right, without any human intervention. Second, they do tool oriented reasoning, right? They can use tools like browsers, APIs, code interpreters, databases. They can gather data, they can take actions, and they refine the outcome dynamically, right? And the third is they have persistent memory, and they are aligned to a certain goal, right? Like unlike traditional AI where you can, they need to they can do multi-purpose, right? You have AI which does multi-purpose. These agentic AI, they are built for a specific context. They are and what happens is, even though they're built for a specific context, user preferences, user inputs can change over time, right? So you can personalize them, right? And you can have a goal directed behavior, right, across all the different sessions that they are engaged with, right? So that's the three things I would like you to take away for agentic AI: autonomous task execution, tool processing, persistent memory with goal alignment, right? So that's what agentic AI does, right? Now we talked a bit about that, but just calling out those key characteristics. They're autonomous, like we talked. It's already pre-programmed. They're already trained on certain things. They can do specific tasks without any human intervention, right? And they can also do decision making by applied reasoning, right? So there are reasoning models which can be used, and they can take best course of action, right? Like for example, let's say you have a business process where some job comes in, and you have three teams: level one, level two, level three, right? And if at all it's a simple problem, it goes to level one. If it's a intermediate problem, it goes to level two, and if it's a complex problem, only then it goes to level three, who are like highly built associates, right? Now you can have a AI agent which does the decisioning, right? So they would, rather than have a human and you have a dependency on them, the person has to have the subject matter expertise and all that, and you cannot scale the human, right? So you may want to now expand this decision making team now, right, rather than expanding your level one, level two, three, who are actually subject matter expertise, right? So instead, you can bring in AI agent and do that decision making. You can delegate that, and you can scale like infinitely, right? Um, Perception, they can get inputs from various sensors, right? Like you can put it into a manufacturing industry, you can put them into autonomous cars, you can put them into even for that matter, you can have like let's say you are a IT industry, and you have microservices which are managing and serving various internet exposed websites for your industry, right? So they can serve as sensors, they can see where the volumes are coming in, they can scale the servers automatically and things like that, right? And learning, they can learn over time. There is something called reinforcement learning that they use, and there's also something called self-supervised learning. So what they do is they label the data that you're giving, and they train the model over and over again, right? So they can adapt to new situations, they can optimize the strategies, right? So Abhijit has a question. If you could tell how this is different from Gen AI, right? Great question, right? And also predictive AI, right? Now I'll start with predictive AI. Right. So predictive AI is where you are trying to predict an outcome, right? It could be a number, it could be probably a caption to an image, it could be a image itself, it could be a video, it could be a caption to a video, it could be a transcript, right? Or it could be a category. You are categorizing or classifying, whether this is high, low, medium. Is this a customer that is going to churn or not? Is this a loan application that might default or not? Right? Or is this an person who can be a good customer or not, or things like that, right? So those are all predictive AI, right? And what started as ML algorithms, over time our data became complex, right? Basic algorithm, supervised learning algorithm may not do a good job, right? It might give you like an 80% coverage, right? But still you have the 20% where you need your associates to look into it, right? And that's where AI comes, where it can do much more than ML. It can bring human cognitive capabilities, and it can understand very intricate patterns within data, right? With that, it can give you precisely and predict precise information to you, right? And that was predictive AI. And then Gen AI came on, right? And what Gen AI did was looking at data, right? It's a kind of an unsupervised learning, because you're just asking to generate something. Like for example, you can go to Dali and say, boss, create me an image, of something like a boy sitting on a farm, right, in Van Gogh style, right, or a Starry Night style, right, or you can say medieval style, right, or you can say futuristic style, right? So it can create generate all these kind of images to you, right? You can go to Chat GPT and say, write me a poem, right? And what it is doing is it is generating something new, right? It's based on your persona, based on the context, based on the prompts you're giving. It's able to generate that for you, right? So this is Gen AI, where given a prompt, the model is generating something, right? Now here there has been issues like hallucination, where this is a kind of error. These are edge case scenario, but these Gen AI, they behave as though they know everything, right? And they give you data as if that is the precise, and there's nothing that is the source of truth, and nothing else is truth, right? And that's what is called hallucination, and you have to be careful about it, right? So those are some of the concerns about Gen AI. So we talked about what is predictive AI, and then came along Gen AI, right? But agentic AI are the small AI models, right? The predictive AI models, or decision making predict AI models, which are taken, right? They package, and they are made to do specific things, right? Like for example, I want to, I am a leader of an organization, right? And I want to meet my associates, like a all associate meets or a all hands meet, right? And I don't want to have a regular cadence like a monthly or a quarterly, right? I want to have cadence whenever there is some level of anxiety among my associates. How would you do that? Right? You need to have someone who probably gossips too much, and maybe kind of scratch this person's head, and get to know that there is anxiety, and then you would do, right? Or you could have various tools, various associate experience platforms which are being monitored, and then you get to know, okay, associates are more curious, they want to know something what's happening, and they need more transparency, right? And then dynamically you have an AI agent which intimates you that this is the score where the anxiety level of the associates are, and it can automatically look at associates calendars and say, okay, Wednesday is where generally I see most of the associates calendar is available, and it sets up a calendar invite for everyone. And now it, because you're meeting your associates, you need probably a large room. It will look at the rooms available, it will block a room for you, right? And it will send emails to the support associates who has to take care of video conferencing, who has to take care of the audio conferencing, etc., right? So you get my point. Basically it is doing all these things for you. I can give you another example for agentic AI, right? Customer support agents. Let's say you are a insurance company, and you are managing back office operations for a huge insurance firm, right? Now you have 100 associates who work on shift and things like that, right? Imagine replacing that with an agentic AI. Now, what this agentic AI can do, like someone calls or someone emails or someone does, post questions on a chat bot, they will understand the query, right? And they can search internal knowledge bases. They can plan multi-step response. They can plan escalations, right? They can learn from past interactions, right? So it's like an agent which can resolve refund issues. They can check order status, they can confirm policy rules, right? And all these it does without any human intervention, right? Yeah, banking, we just talked about insurance, right? Let's say, financial advisors. Okay. So what does a financial advisor do? Now, maybe, you have robo advisory or, like a white glove service. You're a financial, you're into, I'm talking more about retail, investment side of things. You have a white glove service who talks to kind of high net worth individuals. But let's say you have a lot of banking accounts for college grads, people who are just out of college, who just started workforce and things like that, right? Now you need to scale a financial advisor, so you can bring in a AI agentic bot, okay, which can gather data on their financial goals and history. They can monitor market trends. They can autonomously rebalance their portfolio and suggest any tax saving instruments. They can maintain long term memory of financial objectives that they have, right? So, and another example which ICSA Prudential does is they have an agent which schedules SIP adjustment, right? So what you can do is, when a user's income changes, or they want to optimize for a long-term growth, they schedule, they kind of adjust their SIP date in a way that you get more units out of the SIP amount, right? So these are some of the examples. You can look up Compound AI, you can look up some GPT agents, and they do this kind of financial advisory, right? And in let's say a legal side, right? So it's very what you can say expensive, right? If you want to bring a paralegal or a legal person who has to look at legal documents, they charge you in the terms of like $100 per hour or even more, right? And that's very expensive. Imagine agentic AI doing that. It can read through legal documents, it can search case laws, it can search statutes, it can construct any legal argument on your behalf, it can draft contracts, it can remember firm specific clauses, policies, preferences, right? So there's a agentic AI called Harvey, right? Harvey, right? Which you can look up, and what does it? It can draft, like lease agreements for you, service agreements. Let's say you're selling something, right? You can go give all the details. It will and you can put in some clauses, you can put some kind of terms within the contracts, and it will bake all that in within the service agreement, right? And it will also come up with templates, and you don't have to give much manual inputs, right? There are also AI life coaches, right? You can look up replica with a K, right? REPLIK, right? Or there's also PI by inflection, that's another life coach, right? So what that does is, it looks at your goals, it looks at your emotions, your EQ. It tries to, first of all, try to gauge that, and then it suggests habits and reflections. It can plan interventions now and then based on your behavior patterns, right? Sometimes we run through recurring burnouts, right, and symptoms, and what this does is it autonomously schedules meditation sessions, workout sessions and rest reminders. All that is provided, right? And maybe I can give you another example in banking operations. Dipanshu asked for this, right? Let's say you have a complex workflow which cuts across multiple tools like Excel. Then there is an email that goes out, and the SAP, kind of process kicks in, right? So what this will do is it will plan sequences, onboarding employees. How do you do, right? Let's say someone is getting hired, it will make sure there's a welcome email, then there's some birthright access, some basic access, right? It will it will initiate the card printing, some building level access, email, it'll set up the mailbox and things like that, right? It can pull updates data from different systems, right? Another, you can imagine like a HR agent, right? Which can create employee profiles, set up payroll, sends onboarding emails, welcome calls, all these things, right? And these are very repetitive, almost mundane, almost set in stone, never changes. The system also never changes. Most times we just bring in abstraction like a work day or something like that, but the underlying system is most cases same, right? And these days, there are autonomous business analysts as well, right? Where the agentic AI can ingest business reports and dashboards. It can detect any anomalies. It can suggest strategies. All those things, right? And even in the education field, right? Like there is something called Khan Me Go, right? I think it is by the Khan Academy, right? So what it does is, let's say you need a math tutor. Okay, so a math tutor agent will be assigned to you, right? And you can not just ask algebra, you can ask visual geometry, right? And let's say a student is struggling with some formulas, right? So it can explain to you in a lot of in a very simplified manner, right? And in a more what you can say visual manner. So that way, it kind of sticks to the learner, right? And many times some learners have learn very fast, some pace is very low, right? So it can understand that, it can give you personalized lesson paths, right? So the various applications of agentic AI. I have a few covered in my deck as well, right? But where it all began, right? It began in the 50s with the birth of AI, right? So that's when Alan Turing coined this something called Turing test. It's still used, by the way. Alan Turing, a great mathematician. You should definitely watch the game Imitation Game in case you haven't, right? It's about the life history of Alan Turing, and he developed various machines during World War II, which helped America fight the war, right? So he also pioneered in coming up with this Turing test, and the definition is very simple, right? What Alan Turing said is, there is a machine, and you put a screen, and the other side there's a human interacting with that machine, right? And the way you interact with that machine is in such a way that it responds back just like a human does, right? And then you can call that as an AI. Even very very recently, OpenAI released a Chat GPT 4.5, and they ran it through the Turing test, right? So it's still relevant, by the way, right? And in the 70s and 80s, we had the expert systems, right, where we had a rule-based decision making. Well, somehow we give you rules. If this, then do that. Given this, do that. Right. And if it's not, then do this. Right. Things like that. So we had a rule-based decision making. And, the problem with that was, there was no learning capabilities. It was very rigid. You need to know beforehand all the different possibilities that has to happen. Right. But in the 90s, the machine learning began to rise. Between in the 80s and 70s, what is called as the winter of AI, right? We didn't see much, development, much advancement in AI. But in the 90s, came the neural networks, right? And then the reinforcement learning. So it was all very much, theoretical. Not much was being implemented because we didn't have much of a data, right? But in the 2000s, the digital revolution began, right? Everything became digital. Business moved from books to digital, right? And then in a few years we had a lot of data, right? Most organizations were sitting on a lot of data, and they didn't know what to do that, and that's where machine learning came into assistance, right? They could handle complex tasks. They could learn huge amount of data. They could do natural language processing. They could do computer vision, right? And they were able to build autonomous systems using that, right? And then in the 2000s took off the deep learning revolution, where it was not just structured data but unstructured data like images, videos, right? Let's say time series data, all these were being able to, like, we were able to train systems using specialized models like CNNs, RNNs, right? We were able to integrate a lot of IoTs, right? And cloud computing also helped us with the implementations, right? All that led to AI agents, right, where we are today. And the most important aspect of this AI agent is automation that we have been talking about, and you can scale them, right? You can scale large scale operations, right, without having to worry about cost and things like that. Right. And they also allow you real time. You don't have to have someone waiting on the call. You may not say you don't have to give them a 24 hours SLA anymore, right? Everything is real time. The adaptability is very easy, right? So you can quickly repurpose, let's say, a HR agent for also to be like a let's say a nudge bot for your associates, right? Where it can send you nudges and notifications around what's happening in your organizations, right? So adaptability is very easy. You can personalize it, right? So you can deliver tailored experiences, especially recommendation systems, right? You have seen that how Amazon uses this. What gets recommended to me is not same as you. YouTube does that, right? And Instagram does that, right? So targeted marketing, all these can be implemented within AI agents as well, right? And how these work? So they work with like I said, three important things that they use to make it work. One is, how do you build autonomous task execution? How do how does it do tool oriented reasoning? How does it have the persistent memory, right? So to do that, the core components is, one is perception, right? So it has to gather data and it has to make sense of it, right? So in autonomous vehicles, it uses light detection and light detection. I forget the acronym, right? Something on that lines, and it can detect your surroundings, right? And in the case of a reasoning, it can use recommendation systems and suggest products based on their specific behaviors, right? In case of action, how they would use something like a robotic vacuums, right? Where it can navigate the room and it can decide what is the most efficient way of cleaning, right? And in case of learning, we talked about the Khan agentic AI. It can refine responses based on your interactions, right? Now there are various types of AI agents, right? You can categorize in multiple ways, but the best way I would like to categorize is whether is it a agentic workflow or a non-agentic workflow, right? Where a non-agentic workflow is like a zero-shot prompting, right? Now, when you learn about prompting, you can get into this where you just say uh, to a bot or an agent, type out an essay on topic X, right? And from start to finish in one go, right? So this is how you say, and there is no workflow at all. It has to give you like the 10-liner or a 20-liner essay on that, right? But imagine the same thing in an agentic workflow. You would say, step by step, break down the task for writing an essay on topic X. So what the agent will do, it will say first you need to do some research. Next you need to have some draft. Then it will say you have to do some review, and based on the review, it will say whether it needs revision or it needs more research, and then it will revise the draft, and then it becomes a iterative process. Now you can have agents doing each of these multi-step or a step-by-step task, right? So that's one way of looking at the categories of agentic AI. Another category could be like autonomous or non-autonomous, right? Whether if there's a human in the loop, then you can say non-autonomous. Maybe a human has to give a nudge whether yes or no. There might be edge cases where a human might be needed, so that becomes a non-autonomous. And truly autonomous AI is where it will determine the steps, it will determine the tools that is needed, it will do the iteration by itself without any human involvement, right? Another categorization could be, whether it's multi-agent or if it's a tool. usage, which is the most popular pattern, right? The tool usage I was telling, where it has to look up calendars, it can send out emails, right? It has to block certain meeting rooms, right? So it uses certain tools to do that, and that's the most popular pattern today. But multi-agent could be like where you have multiple agents orchestrating and sequencing and iterating a specific task, right? So there is some another level of categorization that I'm presenting here, which is like simple reflex agents, right? So they operate on predefined rules, very very specific, right? And they don't change too much based on the environment, right? But they could be model based reflex agent, where they keep track of some unobservable aspects, right? Like what is the market, how is the weather today, and things like that, right? And they allow you more informed decision making, right? And they can be goal based agents, where certain specific goal oriented decision making happens and actions are based on that, right? And then utility based agents and learning agents, right, where they continuously learn from your environment, right? So, these agentic AI are learning, right? What are the mechanisms? So let's cover that. But I see the chat has gone very silent, folks, right? So I see about 20 odd people on this webinar. So please go ahead and post your, comments, your questions, right? And at the same time, if you can also post what's your background, like, what's your current role, and your background, so I get to know what is the spectrum of audience that we have today, right? So we can also give some uh, you know um, very industry specific examples as well, right? So please go ahead and type in, your current role, and what you do, so that I get a sense of the audience today, right? Great. So what are the learning mechanisms, right? So it could be supervised learning, right? Now, what is supervised learning, right? Yeah, Survey, thank you. Survey is a teacher. Kishore says he's in B2B software marketing, right, for a US MNC. Great, great. So we'll see how, this agentic AI makes, sense to all of these roles, right? And also how you can kind of deep dive and get more structured learning of this, and probably do a career shift or a career vitality in the field of AI, right? So I'll talk about that towards the end, but I hope this has been helpful, right? I see a lot of non-technical audience as well. I'm trying not to use any technical jargons. I did use some AI terminologies, but mostly it has been non-technical. I hope you are finding this useful, right? But let me explain what is supervised learning, right? So let's say you have a data, and you have an outcome, right? Let's say a very I'll take a very basic example, okay, of whether or not it will rain, right? So I need to build a data and train a AI model whether or not it will rain. So what is the kind of data I need, right? One, I need a historical data, right? I need a historical data, and historical data, by days. Let's say day, okay? Day, maybe I'll give a date, or let's say day one, day two, day three, day four. I need as much data as I can, right? Then on that day, what was the temperature? Okay, maybe I'll need a data on that. It was 22 degrees, 28 degrees, right? 30 degrees, right? 21 degrees, etc. Right? And what was the humidity, right? Maybe 90% humid, right? Or 85%, and things like that, right? And another data could be, let's say what was the wind speed, right? We can say 29 kilometer per hour, right? Things like that, right? And then you can also say whether or not it is cloudy, right? So maybe it is a yes or no kind of question, right? Then did it rain, right? So that is the question. That is the outcome. I would say it rained, it didn't rain, and it rained, and things like that, right? Now this is the data I have. Now these parameters, right? The one within this box, right? So the one that I have highlighted here, right? So this data is my input data, right? What is called as independent variables, right? And the outcome, right, which is called dependent variable. Okay. So wherever there is a dependent variable, which is defined by the data in the independent variables, right? That is called label data, right? I'm labeling that whether or not it will rain, right? I'm labeling this data whether or not it will rain. I'm labeling this data whether or not it will rain, right? So this label data you provided to a AI model, right? So you give it to an AI model. The model trains using that data, and it has a training in it, right? Next time you are, let's say in the 20,000th day, okay, some data comes where you know the temperature, humidity, you give it that data to the model, and it will give you whether or not it will rain, right? So it will predict, right? And the more the data, this can do very well, right? So this kind of training is called supervised learning. Okay. Now there are data where you don't have this. Okay. You just have the independent variables. You can't make sense of it, right? So you provide that to an unsupervised learning model. So what it will say, this unsupervised learning model, right? So this is an unsupervised learning model. So you give the unlabeled data, right? Which is just these independent variables, right? Independent variables. Now, when you give this kind of data, it will say, I'm seeing some patterns. Okay. What is that pattern? You have to make sense of it. It is probably, it is giving you, there are two patterns, right? And you look at it closely. The first pattern says all the data which was cloudy and all the data which was not cloudy. Okay. That's one of the pattern. It'll probably give you another pattern where it will say all the data which was humidity greater than 80%, humidity less than 80%, right? That's so it is giving me patterns of data, right? Now I can take this data, label this, and start doing supervised learning. I can now say, I can now predict humidity. I can now predict whether or not it will is cloudy by training it with a supervised learning. So that's how you would use a unsupervised learning model. There's a more advanced model called reinforcement learning, where the model learns by itself, right? You don't tell which is my independent, which is my dependent. You don't say, give me patterns. So there is an environment. Okay. So it starts from here, and this is the exit. Okay. And there are a lot of roadblocks here, right? And let's say you have an agent, right, which has to go, it has to traverse, and it has to reach here, right? Now let's say it goes and touches this blocker, then it is penalized. Okay. It is penalized. And let's say it traverses the right path that you want it to do, then it is rewarded, right? And you train this in a way that it gets more and more reward points and less penalized points. So any blockers anywhere it is now in this environment, it knows how to traverse and reach the exit, right? So basically, your training how it has to deal with the dynamic environment, right? So that is reinforcement learning. Yes, Rahul, I will talk about the eligibility towards the end. We'll just cover a few more concepts about agentic AI. How is it practically implemented, right? So one, you need data collection, you need to deploy it, which is all part of, ML ops process. You need to train that model, which is again, machine learning engineering, right? You need to monitor that. Again, it's part of, DevOps and ML ops kind of a process, right? Some examples, autonomous vehicles, we talked about it, robotics, personal assistants, game AI, financial trading, healthcare, right? So these are all some examples. But what it means to you as leaders, right? So for you, it you can look at increased efficiency, right? You can streamline certain operations which can save time. You might be evaluating between an automation or a robotic process automation or an ML model or an agentic AI, right? So now earlier we were looking at automation as just say, let's say custom automation or robotic process automation. Now you can also as leaders look at agentic AI as one of the option, right? Of course, you will do the cost benefit analysis, you will do the 4P analysis, right? And things like that, right? You will do the the fishbone analysis and all that, right? As leaders, you do that, but the ask is consider agentic AI as one of your solution for increased efficiency, right? You can also look at wherever decision making is being made, right? It can bring in enhanced decision making. You can reduce cost because it can scale infinitely. If there is continuous learning, you don't have to worry about dynamics and changing environments. It can say scale, like we talked about. It can help you improve customer experience, right? Now Abhijit is asking, what are some of the platforms that are readily available, right? Now, I can name lots of platforms, like, for example, Forethought. You can just look up Forethought, right? It's a agent bot, right? So you can go purchase license and you can start running your own customer support organization without any associates, without any hiring a single person, right? It'll give you all the HR process, finance process, and it will do the customer agent, right? Forethought, right? You can look up Devin, Devin, right, by Cognition, right? So this is doing coding assistants, right? These are agentic AI doing coding for you, right? You can look up Compound AI, right? You can look up Harvey. I talked about the legal research. You can look up Replica, right? These are all platforms which are readily available, practicing agentic AI, and they do a much better job. But they are cross domain, right? They may not be very specific to you. So you as organization, if you have the money, if you have the budget, maybe, and if you think it is strategic, right? If it's long term, you as leaders should be able to define that, right? Then you can also build your own agentic AI, right? And that's what this program does, where you can it will help you what use cases will be a good fit for agentic AI, and where you can apply them, right? And how do you build them? What are the process to build them and things like that, right? Srinivas says, I have an anime image. I want to make video messages and reels with my script. Yeah, you can try you can start with Gemini or let's say Anthropic Claude AI, right? You can start prompting and trying to get. Most probably, you may need some license and subscriptions to get the best out of it. But you can start from there, and you will get a lot of options to do that, Srinivas, right? Yes, it was for IT employees, and before we get to the program, a little bit about Great Learning itself. So this is a tech company which is one of the leading companies in India. It's best in class in when it comes to completion rates and learner satisfactions. Right? You can see how many career transactions. You can see the numbers, and it's all in millions, right? And they are affiliated to UT Austin and a lot of other esteemed universities as well, right? Now, this program, who is it targeted to, right? It is if you are a leader in any domain, right? If you are in responsible for taking decisions, then definitely this program can be recommended for you. Right. So this webinar itself, I don't know, not sure if you get certification, but you will get references, and recording links. But definitely recommend looking at this program, and I'll tell you why, right? So like Lakshana was telling, this is a 5 month intensive program. So there is a lot of commitment, right? So you have to put in at least 2 hours a day, or at least 10 to 12 hours a week, right? And we start with understanding AI through data, right? So everything begins with data. So it's like a boot camp where you will look at business of AI. What where you can apply AI, right? So AI is expensive. You cannot apply in, let's say, cases where you need to spin off companies and things like that, right? So you need to understand where exactly the business of AI comes into picture, right? And then you will learn about how do you build AI projects, what are the life cycle of that, right? And then we go on to cover supervised learning, where you look at regression, classification. You will do POCs by, that's how you learn, right? So by doing it yourself. And then you don't have to write a single line of code. We'll introduce you to low code platforms which will help you do that. But at the same time, if you have a team that you're managing, who are data scientists and machine learning engineers, you know where to track them. You cannot be taken for a ride when they say, I will need 1 month to do this, right? So you will ask the right questions. And then there will be neural networks and ensemble techniques. There'll be unsupervised learning, right, where you learn about pattern clustering, dimensionality reduction, right? And then we also cover recommendation systems, right? So and then we cover Gen AI, which will also include a project and 9 case studies, right? Where you will understand large language models, you will identify business problems, you will build a successful Gen AI strategy aligned to a certain specific goals, right? And you'll ensure data quality and things like that. And all these is by experiential learning, not just someone having to come and ram through a theory for you, right? So it'll all be in practice. There'll be capstone projects, and you will demystify chat GPTs, and you will also look at applications of that, right? But who is this program for, right? So you've been asking for this. This is for if you're a product manager, if you're a business head, if you're a delivery manager, account manager, you're a consultant, you're a marketing manager, R&D, or anyone who's designed for taking business decisions in your respective industry, then yes, you can consider looking at this program, right? And we are proud to have some esteemed faculty. If you look up AI, right, these are the names you will see in when it comes to the academicians, right? When it comes to AI, Dr. Kumar and Dr. Abhinanda Saka, they're one of the top academicians, right, when it comes to AI. You will also be gaining real world experience by working on industry focused projects, right? So you'll be working on banking projects, you'll be working on, let's say, telecom domain projects, you'll be working on automobile projects. So they're totally about 19 or something projects that you'll be working on across different industries and domains, right? You'll identify potential customers, you'll build sentiment analysis, you will also conceptualize a AI product. So it'll let you imagine, and you can do your POCs, right? Here are some testimonials. I'll just pause this slide for a second here. Just go through some of our, learners, some of our alumni who have given testimonials about this program. Just read through that, please. While you're reading, I see a couple of questions on Q&A. I was most of the time looking at the chat, right? I did look at the Q&A, but I see someone's asking, what's your take on agentic AI? Can it replace traditional system like the banking industry, or will it replace or add over it an extended layer or add value? See, great question, right? And definitely, warrants a larger discussion. But I feel personally that it will not take over any industry, right? But it's going to solve some pain points, right? We talked about robo advisor and things like that, right? But it will make certain things very efficient. It'll make, let's say, for example, if you are into a trading desk, you can probably hook on to brokerage platforms. Let's say, like a trade bot where it does trade on your behalf, right? And things like that. So it's not going to take the industry, but it's going to solve pain points, and it'll make the business more efficient, right? That's where I see. So yes, there will be some shift in the skills, like the people who are probably doing more front office and more rudimentary work, they might get upskilled, they may move it to something that is using AI, or they might be using AI to do their job, right? Vinayak asked, given the challenges of modernization of any system, could an agent offer a viable alternative to full replacement, keeping in mind the infrastructure and hardware requirement? See, that's what these, we talked about, Anthropic Claude AI, we talked about, few of the agentic AI platforms. They are giving you SaaS solutions, right? You can use that with few dollars of bill per month. Right? You don't have to stand up your entire hardware, but the decision whether to use that or not is to be done by you as leaders, right? So that's where you need to know what is agentic AI. You need to know how AI is used in Gen AI, how AI is used in predictive AI, right? You need to know, like for example, large language model. You need to know architectures like a RAG, right? At least you should know these terminologies and what is, trending, and what is the solution, that is, common these days, right? So that's where, knowledge becomes important to make that informed decisions, right, Vinayak? So it may replace, it may not replace, right? It might add some business value. It might take away some human in the loop. It might make the process faster. It might remove bottlenecks, right? But definitely not more expensive than how you would do, in a traditional terms where you have to scale, traditionally, right? So that is definitely not viable. But definitely, with agentic AI and things like that, you can scale infinitely, right? And with almost the same cost as what you would scale with for just one process, you can scale that for infinite process at the same cost, right? Almost the same cost. Great. So, how do you enroll and why to enroll now? First of all, this is the trend, right? So this is not a fad anymore. Someone was telling on the chat that this is where the coming jobs are, and I agree with that. If you look up, traditional roles, traditional jobs are much lesser than what used to be, right? So I think the expectation is how we have the data, we have everything, but where can we go next, right? That's where businesses are looking for, and that's where you need to upskill, right? This is AI for Leaders program, and the 25% of the curriculum are Gen AI related topics, right? There's going to be 16 hours of Gen AI content, 4 weeks of deep dive into Gen AI, and I know there's a lot of Gen AI things listed here, but what's important is the foundations, right? And foundations can take you years, right? And Gen AI literature, if you see, it's vast, right? There's so many white papers, so many YouTube videos, so many Udemy tutorials, so many Coursera videos, right, that you can find, and nothing will help you kind of upskill as quickly as a program like this can do, right? And how do you get enrolled? There is a link that Lakshana has shared on the chat. I request you to copy the link and bookmark it if you want, and do fill up the form, and someone will get in touch with you. You can also take a screenshot of this slide, right, where you can use this number to call or email, and there's a link as well here which will give you more information, right? The deadline is usually yesterday, right? But luckily it is today, right? So it's like better late than never. But at the same time, do you're all smart people, do take informed decisions, right? And hopefully this session was helpful, at least to demystify what is AI, demystify what is Gen AI, and understand a little bit about agentic AI. Right now, agentic AI, of course, in this program is 4 week program. We are trying to cover that in 50 minutes for a non-technical audience. I believe this has been helpful to you. I'll just pause here. There is a couple of minutes before we can take some questions, and then we'll call it a wrap. All right. If no further questions, again, I thank you so much for joining the session today. Have a good rest of your day. Thank you. Bye. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, Shah. Yeah.
Thanks. Bye.